Welcome to the Adventure Podcast by BidX. I'm your host, Joie Roberts. Today, we have an incredible guest with us, Dano Falk, an entrepreneur who's navigated the worlds of jazz, DJing, and digital businesses with amazing success, from founding his own agency to selling his Amazon business. Dano's journey is full of insights, and today he's going to share his expertise on everything from Amazon Japan to mastering advertising strategies. Get ready for a conversation packed with inspiration and actionable tips. Dano, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joie.
Now, you've lived in so many different countries, like even before the age of 10. How did that international experience shape your mindset, like your entrepreneurial mindset and your approach to business?
I think it was basically the core of my entrepreneurial mindset, because if you live in 5 different countries by the age of 10, you kind of lose this sense of safety, to be like safe in a certain environment and to do things a certain way. So when I was 10, we moved from those days Belarus, or White Russia, which was part of the Soviet Union, to Germany, which was like moving to a completely different planet. So nothing was the same. The people were different. The language was different. The whole economic system was different. To go to a shop and see like 10 different types of sugar was something completely unbelievable. So, and also how people behave and how they interact with each other was completely different. So, yeah, so I was kind of lost in the universe of all kind of different countries. But I also learned to enjoy, to adapt to new cultures, to new languages, to new countries. So it became kind of easy, and I think it kind of laid the foundation for my entrepreneurial journey, because like facing like new things and venturing into something unknown become something like natural to me.
That makes sense. Yeah. And you were so young, so you just had to get used to different people, different foods, different sayings really young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, just learning a new language, when you're age 10 and just start to go to school and don't understand half of what the teacher's saying. There was a lot of challenges involved. And also, of course, the racism part of it, because we did not feel very welcome most of the time when we came to a new country. So it also had all this adversity built in. So I had to deal with this adversity very early on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a big transition and a cultural shock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Life lessons. And that really approached your online business mindset to be, what would you say, like open to different cultures, different ways? Like, how did that impact your first businesses you started?
I would say I was just following my, what I wanted to do, and I did reject any kind of control, external authority. I call it. I developed like an authority allergy very early on. So when people told me what to do and what to say and where to go, I had a different opinion on that. I would not simply obey and say yes, boss. I would actually just do it my way. And my first business was repairing bicycles in Cologne, when I was 14 years old. That was my first business. But after that, I was always curious. I was curious on how to work out things, what was happening outside of this thing called school. So as soon as I was released from school, I did not want to join any other educational system where people would tell me to sit in class and do tests and all that. Mm. So I was very early on. I was just curious about what the world is like, what's happening outside there, and just do things that I love to do. And the first thing happened to be playing jazz saxophone.
I love this. Okay, your authority allergy. I love that saying. I wish I knew that when I was younger, but that's an amazing saying. And But you're right. It is really curiosity because you were exposed to so much at a young age that you knew there was this big world out there.
Yeah. That was kind of obvious that there's so many different things out there, which I wanted to experience firsthand and not in a classroom. Yeah, that was my goal.
Yeah, that is so big at such a young age. And I have a 6-year-old, so I'm like, oh, I'd love to offer him a bigger world. Moving from the jazz, it was the saxophone and DJing, super cool, to the world of online marketing and Amazon. That's like a really big leap. Let's talk about that experience and how you even pivoted into the digital world.
Yeah, it all happened when I was doing sound engineering. I was like in my early 20s, and a friend of mine told me, hey, there's this thing called desktop publishing. Why don't we check it out? So I just said, yeah, let's do that. So we started desktop publishing. It was like in the mid 90s or something. That was the first version of digital stuff. You know, you could like create digital layouts and printings. And from there, we went into this thing called multimedia, which was basically creating interactive content on a CD-ROM, which does not exist anymore. Yeah. And from there, we went on to internet and, online marketing. So that was like a progress. And in 2000, I created my first agency called Dev Design in Munich. So that's when I was lucky enough to have this connection with Siemens and EADS and big companies in Germany. And we did like digital content for these companies, and that's how I kind of went into this digital marketing space in 2000.
Oh, okay. And what was that transition like? Because from hearing your allergy to authority, it seems like DJing and music is a lot more free form, and then you move into the digital space, and there's a lot of terms and conditions and regulations.
As a service provider, yes, of course, you have clients. When you have clients, you have to deal with certain expectations, and they have requirements, requests. And so for me personally, music is something where I do not tolerate any kind of authority at all. So when I play music and people tell me that, I want this song, I want that song, I want you to play this and that. This is something which I cannot handle. So as a DJ, I was always like an artist where you hire me, I play what I like to play, or you don't hire me at all. But the space for this kind of my personal taste in music, which is very, very black, I must admit. So even though I'm white on the outside, I'm black inside. The market for that was not really big, I must admit. So of course, just following what we love to do doesn't mean we can, pay the bills. So I also realized, there are other things that I can do and other talents that I can develop. And this online marketing stuff was something where I could compromise. I could say, okay, if you want this logo to be yellow instead of green, I can deal with that. I can make it yellow. It's fine. It's easier for me to compromise in this area. And it was also, it was like a completely new industry. And I was really inspired by like all the things that were happening, like this whole internet thing came up and mobile phones and all that. It was all new. So I was excited to be part of this development. And and I just went along with it.
Awesome. And then you sold on Amazon, or what was your first experience with Amazon?
My first experience. So that was in 2014, and I had no clue what I was getting into, because I was in Malaysia at the time. I joined a seminar and I learned about this thing called Amazon, where you can actually sell as a private person. You can sell stuff on Amazon. I thought, interesting. So there is the product part, and then there's all this digital, the visual part and the marketing part. So I could bring that one to the table, and then all I had to figure out would be the product part. And then maybe I could create something completely new and unique for myself. So I went ahead to do that. And that was the same time when the Apple Watch came out. So I thought, and I was a big fan of Apple and the Apple Watch. So I thought, okay, so let's create some accessories for the Apple Watch. So that's what I did.
Cool. And how'd it go?
It went okay. I mean, I could tell some, so it's Amazon is if you have authority allergy, then Amazon is not a very good place to be, to be very honest. So,
it's tough, yes.
I mean, yeah, so there are funny things happening, and my account got suspended and all that. And of course there was the Chinese sellers. And so there was a lot of a lot of challenges happening on Amazon, but at the same time, it was an amazing learning curve to see what can be done on this, again, rather progressive and very new platform to me. So I learned this whole stuff about supply chain, about packaging, about about PPC, about creating listings. So I had to learn all these things, and yeah, it was an exciting time. It was a very challenging time, and I did kind of full circle by building this business and selling the business. And the selling part was at least as exciting as building and running it, because it's like a whole new experience. What happens when somebody, suddenly wants to take over your baby, and, and they do all this due diligence, and you're signing your LOI and stuff. So it was a very exciting journey. But in 2019, I sold this business. I felt like, wow, I have moved on to another stage in my life where I have experienced this full circle of building and selling a business like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also built and sold an Amazon business.
Wow.
And went through the building process of building my baby. And I built it from 0 to $1 million in about 12 months. And it took on a life of its own.
From 0 to $1 million in 12 months. Wow.
I did. Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks. But there were lessons learned from building too quickly. And I had a little baby at home. I had a 2-year-old. So I had to really take a look at the business.
You actually had a baby. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah. But that baby, which I had a love-hate relationship with, and then I had my child that I needed to show up for.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, to your point, the selling process is so interesting. It's so much different than pouring your heart into your business, and then people come and just tear it apart, and you're like, but don't you want to buy it?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this thing, and all these thoughts running through your head, like this guy could be just a competitor. He could be just taking your business apart and say, oh, sorry, I'm not interested. And he would know everything about your business. So it is scary. It is scary.
It is. Yeah, it's exciting. It's scary. So yes, I can completely feel you on that. And you learn so much, and it just catapults you to the next business. So with this brand that you were building, that started with the watch accessories, were you selling in Japan?
No, I was selling in the US.
In the US. Okay, so you were over. Yeah. Where were you living at the time? Still Malaysia? In
Malaysia. I was in Malaysia, sourcing from China, selling in the US.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. See, that does prove you can sell in the US from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's Malaysians are as a Malaysian, you can open an Amazon seller account. I mean, not every country is authorized to, to open a seller account, but as Malaysian, you can.
Right. Yes, there are rules and regulations on that. I always think if you have Amazon, if you can buy products from Amazon where you're at, most likely you can sell, but they're opening up to lots of countries.
Yeah.
So you are experienced and talk a lot about selling on Amazon Japan, right? So tell me about that part of it, because that's interesting to me.
Yeah. So after selling my Amazon business, I went back to the agency world where I was helping other sellers. And around 5 years ago, someone came to me and said, hey, we want to sell on Amazon Japan. And I was pretty confident about selling on Amazon. However, Japan was a bit of a new animal. So I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's figure it out. So there was a learning curve, a quite steep learning curve to figure out how to deal with the Japanese culture, with the Japanese language, importing, certification, and all this stuff, and taxes and whatever. So we did all this hard work. We figured it out all to make this work for this specific client. And we discovered that not many brands in the West are aware of the opportunity of Amazon Japan. Because if you look into the stats, it's the fourth biggest marketplace on the planet for Amazon. And
wow.
And so far nobody I ever asked about this, like what you think are like the top 5 marketplaces of Amazon. Nobody knew that Japan was number 4 after US, Germany, UK. Yeah, so Japan is definitely something to consider if you are selling in the US and maybe in Germany and UK. So if you go by size, Japan should be like number 4 on your list. And it should be even higher up in your list if you're sourcing from China, for example, because as we know, China and Japan are neighbors, basically. So your shipping time and cost is a fraction. So there are a lot of reasons to consider Japan, but also, of course, there's also a lot of challenges, and people are like, "What, Japan?" I mean, of course, the language is like a different world altogether. So that is something where we also had to figure out like how to deal with this, and the culture is different, and you have to understand how to bring products into Japan and all this stuff. So we did all this hard work, and now we're offering at a service that's what entrepreneurs do, right? I mean, they figure out how to do something, and then they help others to do it.
Yeah, very cool. So now you have Def Device, and
Yep.
what does Def Device focus on? Obviously selling in Japan.
Yeah. So, we do quite a few marketing services. I mean, being in this online marketing world for 20 over years, it has given me kind of a lot of experience in different areas of, we have been doing chatbots. We build chatbots for Amazon sellers, for example. We do customer relationship management system. We help brands just, to create more awareness. And I look at myself as an online marketing consultant. So what I enjoy most is to kind of look at a particular business and highlight the parts where they can grow in their online presence. Like what are the flat tires, I call them. And so it's a 360 approach where I help businesses to grow online. But we do focus on e-commerce, on Amazon sellers, because that's basically my history. So what we focus on is basically to bring awareness to Western brands about the opportunity in Japan, then do a marketplace assessment for them, like check like what would it look like for your product to sell in Japan? What is your competition like? What is what are the price points? How many reviews do your competitors have, and all that, to just get this picture to make an educated decision if it would be a good idea to start selling in Japan. And if it is a good idea, then we go to the next step, and we do the customs clearance, all the 3PL stuff, and create the listings for them, and we run their accounts. Yeah, that's so this is one of our core services right now.
That's very cool. And I like that you've niched down into Japan. And of course, as you're talking, I'm questioning my product. So I'm like, should I consider my product? So we'll have to have that conversation.
You have my email. Yes, we can have that conversation.
Yes. So let's talk about advertising, because Amazon ads is what keeps all of our brands in front of our buyers, right? And it's changed a lot since you started selling in 2014. I started selling in 2017. But Amazon advertising it's like fast moving too, and it's constantly changing in the algorithms, and of course all the ad formats. How do you stay ahead of that? And I know you did that with your business, but now you're going to have to do that kind of in a worldly way too, because you have
Mhm.
US, you have Japan, and other countries.
Mhm. Well, the way I stay ahead of this is by hiring people who are experts in this field. And BidX is obviously one of those. So we are actually currently running a campaign, our first campaign with BidX. I'm very excited about how it goes. And I mean, for me as the business owner, it's pretty much impossible to stay on top of everything that's happening in the advertising space. So that's why I really love to work with experts like you guys. And we have a few others in our team where we can like simply tell them like, look, this is happening, figure out, check this out. You know, how does this work? And then, so yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. And for me personally, it's about like getting my team to stay on top of what's happening and hiring experts like BidX, you know, to implement like completely new technologies like your AI learning stuff, which I'm very excited to see how it's going to work out for our campaigns. And it does
Yes,
work
we
in
are too.
Japan, by the way. Yeah, I mean, that's the cool part, you know. I mean, not so many ad PPC platforms actually can handle Japan, but BidX does. So that's a very cool thing.
Yes, it is. It is very cool. And I'm excited too for your campaigns to see how all of it goes. What are some of the like common mistakes you've seen some of your clients, Amazon sellers make with their advertising, and then you get to jump in and kind of like course correct them?
Well, I would say the one of the main mistakes I see people is doing is that they don't look at the whole picture. They only focus on like a certain type of, like they only run auto campaigns, or they only do certain bid types, and they don't look at and they don't source their keywords properly. So I think it's one of the biggest mistakes I see, that they're simply bidding on the wrong keywords, and not having this kind of constant. You need to constantly research and keep on looking for profitable new keywords, which would make sense, which would convert. And there are oftentimes these low hanging fruits, as we call it, right? I mean, they're like the long term keywords. They're not all. There's not always like the short one, like the garlic press. So you have to look at all the long-term keywords which would actually fit your product, and this is where most sellers get overwhelmed because it's just too much to handle.
Very true. Yes. And I've been there myself, and I also use BidX for my products as well.
Cool.
And that is kind of where you learn to scale, right? Is when
Yeah.
you can run lots of campaigns, and breaking into other countries, things get so complex, and it's good to have a team that you can trust. So I love that, even though you've been a self-taught entrepreneur throughout your entire career, you still have that side of you where you need a strong team to help you build.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite books is called Who Not How. So if we try to figure out everything ourselves, we get stuck. So we cannot always find the how. We should focus as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. We need to focus on the who. We need to look for the people who can do this, and not. It's impossible. I mean, just look at AI. I mean, come on, who can figure out all this stuff that's happening on a weekly basis? It's impossible. So we should, instead of asking how to do this and how to do that, which gives us like 24-hour working days, we should focus on who can do this and that, and that's how we actually can scale and build a team. And
scaling your Amazon business to once beyond $1 million, you have to have a team that you can trust. I've never read that book. I just took a note on that. We'll put that in the show notes also. But thank you for a book recommendation. That's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And how did you scale? I mean, you ran your Amazon business for about 4 years. How did you 5 years? How did you scale? How many you brought people on?
Well, that is one of the biggest mistakes I made. I did not scale my team properly. I didn't read the book who, not how. So I was not really aware of this concept of who, not how, which I learned along the way. But yeah, I mean, this is what I should have done. Yeah, I should have brought in more people who can do more things. And most of the time I was running the show by myself. And that was my one of my biggest mistakes, I think.
Yeah, I can understand that too. I did that too. I ran my PPC completely by myself the whole time. And the creative, everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to be PPC expert, a graphic designer, a copywriter, and a package designer, and a brand expert, and an off Amazon traffic expert. It's impossible. It's just, I mean, you cannot do that. So you need people for those tasks.
Yes. I wish I had also read that book as I was scaling. So that's our gift to all the listeners. Read this.
Yeah. Who, not how.
Yes. So what advice do you say? You have a lot of experience, and you did your kind of like learn by doing approach that benefited you greatly actually through this Amazon space. And how do you recommend today that people break into the platform? Because it's changed a lot. Like, you did it early. I did it kind of earlier, like 2017. I'm still selling, but it's shifted. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's harder. Some things are easier, but you have to be more strategic, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You mean if you start your Amazon business today?
If you start a new brand, yeah. Like, what advice do you have for experienced sellers, new sellers with Amazon today?
Wow. So to give this one thing that's going to change your business, it's going to be a tough one. But right. I think it's from my observation, it's more and more important to have something unique, to have something you're actually passionate about, something you can really enjoy talking about and dealing with and growing, and something where you can create awareness outside of Amazon, because Amazon alone is not going to do it. That's my perspective. I don't think Amazon alone is going to like build your brand like crazy. I mean, it's a great platform. But first of all, you do not get to build a customer list from Amazon, which is a very, very big problem. So, you're just like you're serving Amazon, and you don't own your customer base. So I think this is not new, but I think it's even more important today than ever to have your off Amazon presence, to build your customer list, and to create your own brand community. And this is the only way you can grow, and not be affected by the next Chinese seller who's, selling for 20% less, or does whatever funky stuff, to bring your listings down. So I think to build your own audience would be, to me, the number one priority.
Yes, I agree. And I like how you just said uniqueness, and you have to be unique to your brand, building stuff off of Amazon. And that is how you scale. And it is the full picture, right? Going back to your music days, it's like the full orchestra. You need everything moving together, and it's not just going to move on Amazon. But what it does is it all works nicely with Amazon advertising, because everything will come back to lowering your on-site costs.
Correct. Yeah, of course. I mean, without PPC, you won't go very far on Amazon, that's for sure.
Yes. Well, Dano, it has been a really insightful conversation. I really appreciate your time. And even though we are worlds apart, I feel like, it's so great getting to know you, and we'd love to have you back on someday.
Cool.
Any final words?
Any final words? First of all, it's been a great pleasure to be here with you, and it's been fantastic to meet the BidX team.
We greatly appreciate it. Well, until next time, we'll see ya.